It's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with the Coach. Buckle yourselves in for some relationship advice because it's not all about fisticuffs and beating people up on this channel. If you have a question about life, the universe, or everything, leave it in the comments down below or email me at ramseydewey@gmail.com. On with the question. Today, this one comes from our friend Ninja Knight, who's actually having a similar dilemma in high school that I had in high school, which is why I'm responding to this question, because, man, I'm feeling where you're coming from. We have different life experiences, different cultures, different religions, but I understand where you're coming from here, man. Ninja Knight is an Arab American and a Muslim, and he abides by his religion. He believes it, he respects that, and he's in love with a girl. He's head over heels in love with a girl. They've known each other for a long time. He wants to marry her one day. But because of his culture and his religion, that's not an option right now. In his culture, his religion, until a man and a woman are engaged to be married, they can basically just be friends, nothing else, right? So he wants to know what to do, because the potential for marriage in his culture is at least 4 years off. So what's he supposed to do right now in high school when he's just friends with this girl? He can't ask her out, he can't date her. But he says this: if I want a real shot at marrying her, and also if I want to obey my religion's demands, I can't date her, I can't ask her out. But how should I be to her? Flirtatious, friendly, dry and boring? What should I do? Okay. So let me tell you a little bit about my high school experience. The entire 4 years of high school, I was secretly in love with this girl. And never once did I express these feelings to her. The whole time I held it in. And here's why. The culture and the religion that I grew up in. You ever see that movie, The Waterboy, with Adam Sandler and Kathy Bates? And Adam Sandler plays this guy who really wants to play football and he really wants to date this girl, but his mom won't allow it because football's the devil, and girls are the devil, and everything's the devil, right? It's against her culture and her religious beliefs to allow her son to do these things. And so he goes out and does them secretly behind her back, and wacky hijinks ensue in the movie. I'm not necessarily telling you to take a cue from an Adam Sandler character. Just that the movie reminds me so much of my own life. Kathy Bates' character, the mom in that movie, reminded me so much of my mom growing up. Girls are the devil. That was the doctrine that she espoused, basically. So there was basically no dating. No dating anyone. Man, back in high school. So, secretly, in what the Spanish poets of the Golden Age called courtly love, I admired this girl from afar. And I would write love poems in secret that she would never ever read. And no one would ever read, of course. And I would just pine in my heart and feel this pain in my heart, like, oh, the love that cannot be. And when I saw her at school, I would just kind of freeze up, like, I don't even know what to say, because one, I have had no conversational skills or interpersonal communication skills back then, and two, where would it go even if I did? So, yeah, man. Fortunately for you, it sounds like you have a better command of communication than I did back in high school, considering the lengthy letter that you wrote to me. Maybe you're really good at writing and not as good at speaking. But I'm going to ask you to speak to her and communicate to her the same ideas that you communicated to me. Now, I don't know if this girl shares your culture and shares your religion. If she does, then certainly she will understand exactly where you're coming from. And then again, maybe you're still in that courtly love phase, looking at her from afar, and the very idea of expressing, hey, I really like you, is just outside of anything you're willing or able to do right now. And I get that. I totally understand that. And you mentioned that in your culture, like, you've got to wait at least 4 years before marriage is even an option at this point in your life. Now, I don't know a whole lot about the Muslim religion. I do know a little bit. I do know that the Prophet Muhammad read the Old Testament and that he was familiar with those scriptures. And I don't know how much the average Muslim is familiar with Old Testament stories, but think for a moment about the story of Jacob, who was later renamed Israel. And he went to work for Jethro. Why? Because Jethro had a daughter named Rachel that Jacob was in love with, madly in love with, and he wanted to marry her. And Jethro said, tell you what, you work for me for 7 years, 7 years of hard labor, and you can marry my daughter. And Jacob said, heck yes, I'm going to do that. And the 7 years passed like it was nothing, because he loved Rachel that much. He loved her that much he was willing to wait, not just wait, but work. And then Jethro pulled a fast one on him, because in his culture, it was mandatory for the older daughter to get married first. And so his older daughter, Leah, he kind of snuck her into the wedding ceremony with a veil on. And when Jacob saw that he had married not his love, Rachel, but her older sister, Leah, he was like, huh, hold on. But again, there are some cultural and religious permutations here that I don't think very many of us in the modern world can really understand or appreciate. And Jacob went to Jethro and said, look, man, that wasn't the deal. Jethro explained, it's our way, it's our custom. The older daughter must be married first. And Jacob said, I will work another 7 years for Rachel, because she is the one I truly love. And so he did. He worked another 7 years to marry the love of his life, Rachel. Yeah, so this is a story about polygamy and all these other things that raise a lot of eyebrows in the modern world. But ultimately, regardless of what culture you are coming from, if we look at the root of Jacob's motivations for working and waiting 14 years for the love of his life, it's a love story. Now, 14 is a little more than 4. But your question isn't so much, am I willing to wait 4 years for the love of my life? Because if you're not, then forget about this whole question. Forget about this whole scenario. If being willing to wait for the love of your life for 4 years is out of the question, then she's not the love of your life. Just putting that out there. In that case, the first one to come along will do. But let's work under the assumption that she is the one for you. Man, let's work under that assumption. Talk to her once again and express to her what you expressed to me in that lengthy letter that you sent to me. This sounds a lot like advice that I got from my older sister when I confided in her after she poked and prodded, hey, is there any girls at school that you like? And I was like, there is. She said, there is. Tell me all about it. And so she extracted the information from me. And I confided in her. I really like this girl. And my sister said, you know what? You should just tell her the things that you told me. And I was like, no, heck no, that's not going to happen, not in a million years. But what if it did? Then we would have known something. Is knowing ever worse than not knowing? What if this girl does not share your culture and your religious beliefs? I don't know. You didn't tell me that much. Just that she was a friend of the family for a very long time. You've known each other a long time, etc. If you explain to her, hey, I like you, but I want to live my religion, I want to respect my cultural beliefs, so I can't get into a serious relationship with you beyond friendship. What kind of serious relationship are we talking about here anyway? You talking about having sex or something? Let's be honest. Let's be frank. Let's go there. In my religion, sex outside of marriage, no. And that shocks a lot of people, because in the modern world, you look at the media, you watch TV, you see movies, everybody seems to be promiscuous, running out there having sex with everybody as often as possible, with as many people as they can. And that's weird, man. That's weird. Everybody's freaking out about the COVID-19 pandemic right now and sort of forgot all about the HIV pandemic that's been going on since the 1980s. Why? Because everybody's shooting up dirty needles? No, because of promiscuity across the world. But that didn't seem to slow anybody down. The threat of a fatal, incurable disease didn't seem to slow anybody down. What is the root of a relationship? A meaningful relationship? I've been married for 15 years. Over 15 years. And I'll tell you what. Sex is not it. That's not the thing that keeps you together for 15 years. That's not the reason that every day I look at my wife in the eyes and I tell her, I love you. And I always will. You've got something valuable right now, my friend, and that is friendship. And the idea of friendship and nothing more before marriage might sound off-putting to a lot of modern people. But that's a valuable thing. That's a rare thing in relationships these days. If you don't have friendship, you don't have a relationship that is going to last. If you don't have a real, lasting, enduring friendship, someone that you can count on, someone that you can talk to, someone that you can relate to, someone who has your back and you have their back through thick and thin, nothing else matters right there. So there is wisdom in your culture, there is wisdom in your religion. It's different than my culture, it's different than my religion, but there are similarities there, and I can appreciate them. There is wisdom there in becoming friends first. and developing an enduring friendship that can last at a bare minimum 4 years. 4 years sounds like an incredibly long time when you're in high school. I mean, that's the duration of high school itself. Seems like an eternity till you finally graduate and walk out those doors into the real world. Man, you're in the real world right now. And the day you were born, the real game began, my friend. That's the real world. So you're wondering, should you be flirtatious? Should you be dry and boring? You ever hear that cliche advice, just be yourself, just be yourself? Oh man, in some ways that's the stupidest advice ever, and in other ways it's and that's, and I'll tell you why, because if you're not yourself, who the heck are you? If you're not being yourself around other people, who the heck are you being? The bad part of that advice is that there is this one unchangeable, immutable version of yourself that you must always be. Be better than yourself every day. Be better than who you were yesterday. It's something I'm always preaching and re-preaching to you guys here. Be a better version of yourself. There we go. How should you be to this girl? Be honest and be frank. I'm assuming she does not know your intentions yet. I'm assuming she doesn't know you're head over heels in love with her, and that if you drop that bomb in her in no uncertain terms, it's going to upset the balance and the force. And it's going to make her look at y'all weird, and it's going to make her parents and your parents start wagging their fingers and saying, this is the devil. Can't happen. But you gotta talk about it, and you gotta address it if you want anything to come of it. What happened to that girl back in high school that I was in love with for 4 years? Well, I went my own way after high school. She went a different way after high school. And we ended up marrying different people. And that's okay. We're both in love with our respective spouses. We have our own families, our own kids. And life went on, and it's pretty awesome. When we are young, it's easy to fall in love, I think. It's kind of the way we're programmed to fall in love deeply, very deeply, like to just imprint on another person and to feel like they are the one and no one else will fill this hole in my soul. No one else can complete me. It's easy to feel that as a teenager. I remember feeling exactly that. That's kind of selfish, though. That's extremely selfish. I'm going to ask you to be a more selfless person. Not to give up on the love of your life right here, but instead of focusing on, she will complete me, change your focus. How do you become a complete person? Do you do that by having another person there to validate you? and say, oh, I love you, oh, you're beautiful, you're handsome, you're wonderful, you make me feel good about myself, validation doesn't complete you. A complete person is a perfect person. What is a perfect person? A perfect person is a person of action. What type of action? The action of love. And what is love? Is it giving people googly eyes and writing poems? No. Love is work. Love is action. Love is holding up the hands that hang down. Love is giving to those in need. Love is standing up for those who cannot stand up for themselves. Love is doing what is difficult. Even when it's not popular or well received. Love is often saying no to those that we love. That's especially true with children, man. Why do you want to marry this girl? If you get married, you're probably going to end up having children. And I'm going to tell you something about kids, man. The most loving thing you can do for children is to tell them no. When your heart wants to indulge them in everything they ask for. But wisdom mandates that you say no. Can I touch that hot flame, Daddy? No. Fire is pretty, but it will burn you if you touch it. So, my friend, I've rambled on quite long enough here. Go have that conversation with this girl. Let her know how you feel. I don't believe speaking your feelings is going to violate your religion. I could be wrong about that, but you know what? I think you'll be okay. What should you do in the meantime? Be a friend and show love, real love, not romantic lust. Have her back, right? Look out for her best interests. Look out for your best interests. And if wisdom mandates it, be willing and ready to say no. Thanks for watching. Now get out there and train. Yeah, man. I'm going to add one other thing to this ramble. And that is this. Another story about love. When I was 21 years old, I fell in love with another girl. And I wanted to marry this girl. I was like, she is the one. And she dumped me. And all that validation that I felt, like, oh, this is going to be this big special thing in my life that's going to make me happy. It was gone, and I felt miserably sad about it. And the sadness started to morph into frustration, and the frustration started to turn into anger. And that anger was just welling up inside of me, and I didn't know what to do with it or how to process it. So what did I do? I had a roommate who said, dude, come to the weight room with me and lift. And I'd never lifted weights before in my life. At that point, I couldn't even lift up an empty bar with no plates on it. But I went there, and I struggled, and I got stronger. And I remember lifting angry. Feeling like, let me pull this anger out of me and push it into this weight. Dude, that was helpful. That was incredibly constructive. So you got a lot of energy inside of you right now, pent up energy and frustration about this girl. And sometimes that'll happen when you're feeling the so in love phase, and sometimes it's going to happen when you have your heart ripped out of your chest, thrown on the floor, stomped on, spit upon, rejected. But there's going to be a lot of energy there. A lot of it's going to be negative, and you need a direction to funnel that into. So get out there and train is probably the best relationship advice I can give you. Get out there and train.